about it as well, actually, because the summer holidays are upon us, and whether you're going away or not, the temptation at barbecues and summer events, maybe the all-inclusive holiday, can sometimes get the better of us. So how do we avoid going all out at the buffet and getting trim without going to the extremes for those summer holidays? Josh Rylatt is from Transformation Fit. He's been helping us with us getting a bit more active and so on the programme this year so far. Josh, hi.
Hi, Ben. How's it going? Morning, everyone.
Yeah, good. There are periods of time in the year where people suddenly think, I've got to do something about this.
Yeah.
And now is one of them.
Yeah. It's been pretty crazy, actually, because usually it's like June, July, we're super busy with people who are desperately trying to get in shape for the holiday, and we're going away in 2 or 3 weeks. This year has been a little bit unique in the fact that we've had the World Cup, which has been extended than it otherwise usually would have been in sort of previous competitions. So it's sort of everything's come to a bit of a standstill. And since going out last week, what we've noticed is that there's more and more people inquiring now because they've got a holiday in 2 or 3 weeks, and with the heat wave and the World Cup, they've not even bothered thinking about the fitness. So there's going to be lots of people out there, probably some people listening today, who are contemplating maybe resorting to some drastic measures to try and get in shape.
Can you do anything in 2 weeks?
That you definitely can. What most people will resort to is your stereotypical crash diet, where they think, I'm going away in 2 weeks, I better cut everything out and just eat next to nothing, and then hopefully my belly will shrink and I'll be a little bit more trim when it comes to the holiday. But that kind of dieting approach can, one, leave you feeling very lethargic. 2, it can contribute to sort of muscle wastage. And 3, it leaves you in a very vulnerable position, whereas when you go onto that holiday and the calories sort of go back up again, your body just sort of sucks it all up and absorbs it up, because you're not just losing body fat, you're losing energy that's stored inside your muscles. So you do get a drastic weight loss by doing that, but in fact a lot of it's water, a lot of it's muscle, and a lot of it will be fat as well. But there are a few little tactics which you can implement, and which will guarantee you some fat loss in the next couple of weeks, which won't be as detrimental. And if you're happy to, I can share some of those.
Yeah, what would you do?
So for me, what I will always recommend to our clients who, the best way, disclaimer here, the best way is to, create a moderate calorie deficit where we just moderately reduce the amount of calories below your maintenance requirements, so that you can slowly and sustainably lose body fat. But that's not very sexy and it's not very glamorous to people. So one thing that we use with our clients who are in a rush to lose some body fat is we actually just switch them over, because what the mainstream sort of, things are getting better these days, but what the mainstream would have us believe is that, 50% of your diet should come from carbohydrates, whole grains, a very small amount of fat, small amount of protein and meats and fish and things of that nature, a small amount of dairy, and a very small amount of sweets and sugar. What we would recommend people to do is to sort of maybe flip that on the head a little bit and switch over to a primarily protein-based diet with lots of vegetables, and for that short period of time you can avoid having any sort of long-term detrimental effects by reducing carbohydrates out of your diet and reducing the fat intake. So what we would recommend is, if you've got a plate of food in front of you, around about a quarter of that to half of that should potentially be protein, depending on how large you are and the sort of your activity level.
So let's say a good-sized chicken breast.
Yeah, a good-sized chicken breast would be great for sort of the average person. If you're somebody who does a lot more weight training, you might want to sort of potentially double that. But most people who are listening probably aren't weight training 3 to 5 times per week. So a quarter of your plate coming from protein, white fish, white meat, red meat, any sort of lean source of protein. About half of that should potentially come from vegetables. So we're trying to get you to load up on vegetables.
Amounts.
Yeah, because it's very hard to sort of consume a ridiculous amount of calories by eating veg. And then what we'd recommend is maybe half a tablespoon to 1 tablespoon of something like coconut oil or extra virgin olive oil to get your healthy fats in and your essential fats in.
Just drizzled over the vegetables, for example, or a salad. I mean, vegetables, this time of the the year, barbecue, a couple of barbecue chicken thighs and some salad and then people, I know listening to this, because I do the same, thinking, yeah, but you've got to have some potatoes with that, some nice new potatoes, they're healthy, aren't they?
Of course, yeah, definitely, and I wouldn't say don't do that. What I would say is, though, have a rule for yourself where you say, I'm going to eat all of my protein and all of my vegetables before I then move on to the carbohydrates. A lot of people will sort of start off with their fries or their rice or their potatoes or whatever it is, is what we would recommend is you fill up on the protein and the vegetables first to get those essential nutrients in, because your body cannot survive without protein and certain micronutrients that you get from from vegetables, but it can survive without carbohydrates. Maybe not optimally, but if you did not eat another carbohydrate for the rest of your life as of today, you'd be absolutely fine health-wise. You could not do the same with fats, and you could not do the same with protein. So we're looking at what's the safest thing for us to reduce. So we'd say fill up on your proteins, fill up on your vegetables or salad, and then move on to your carbohydrates once you've filled up on those key essential
Because what we're talking about here, we're not talking about the optimal way of living your life. We're talking about if you just need to get a bit of short-term stuff, maybe going away next week, the week after, this would help you just tone up a bit. So you feel happy. This is not going to turn you from being a bit of a couch potato to an Adonis. However, what it might do is make you feel a bit better about yourself. So you have a nice holiday, and then you're in the mindset to go, well, you know what? I'm going to crack on with this, because there's no point, it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is no point beating yourself up about it all the time, because it's just a miserable, I've done that. You beat yourself up, you feel dreadful, you have a treat and you think, oh, it's dreadful, and then you don't eat anything the following day, and it's just a miserable way of living.
Of course, and you've got to take anything that any sort of nutritionist or personal trainer recommends. You've always got to sort of take that and make up your own decision on what's going to be best for you as an individual, because for some people a short-term approach like the one specified is going to motivate people, and if you can see some quick wins and get some quick results in a couple of weeks, that will motivate you and keep you moving on. But for other people, losing a bit of weight quickly and then going on holiday and not doing anything and piling it back on will actually demotivate them. So you've got to sort of take what I'm saying and think about, is this good for me and my mindset?
Do you know what? I always lose weight on holiday. And I think it's because A, I like cooking, and B, because we're going to France, because and I know this sounds ridiculous and stuff, and it's just me, because it's my hobby. I like to go to the market and buy lots of tomatoes and all that kind of stuff, and we tend to eat lots of big salads and grill stuff. Actually, it's not bad, and also
you
more
got
active.
A better lifestyle when you're there.
I think that's true. Swim a lot, walk a lot, and suddenly you think, well, I need to transpose it. And in fairness, I'm not very good at that, but
And this is.
I sound all righteous. I don't mean to be, because I'm not.
No, not at all. It's something that you see a lot, and a change of environment can often instigate changes in habits and changes in behaviours. And this is something which is backed up by psychological research, where when people change their environment, they're a lot more likely to take on new hobbies and take on new habits and do new things and different things that you otherwise wouldn't usually do, because you're so bogged down and busy in your day-to-day life. And I'm very much the same. I'm very active when I go away. I try to be active as much as possible right now, of course, but I'm very active when I go away, because I've not got everything else in my life to sort of worry about or stress about. So you just tend to do things which are naturally better for you. So, getting active whilst you're away is something which everybody can do. And instead of just lazing around by the pool every single day, why not book a few excursions? Because when you're going out and doing these excursions, your mind's not doing nothing. You're not sort of thinking, oh, should we go to the bar and get a drink? Your mind's busy, you're doing something fun, you're often bonding with your family and your friends, and it's a good way to get your steps in and get active.
Josh, it's great to have you in the studio. It's always lovely to meet you. You always make us all feel better about ourselves whenever you're in, because sometimes the message is so harsh, isn't it? In fact, we're talking to a nutritionist, Henrietta Paxson, later on, as one of our Food Friday cooks. We're talking about the whole milk thing, and she's just really positive about it all, and it makes you feel, oh, I can do this, because, and I think that's the way the well-being industry's changed, from beating us all around the head with the big fat stick.
It doesn't work.
And so it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. It just makes me feel rotten and horrible and stuff. Full fat, semi-skimmed or skimmed?
For me, it's full fat every time. And it's not always viable, but in the past, especially when I was trying to increase my muscle mass by quite a lot, what I did in the past was I'd actually go to a farm up by Loughborough and actually buy raw milk. And the thing about raw milk is when the milk you get from a supermarket is when it's pasteurised, a lot of the goodness is taken away from it. And whereas with raw milk, you've got a lot of sort of omega-3 fats in there, which you wouldn't otherwise get in skimmed, semi, and even whole fat from the supermarket. And there also tends to be more protein in there. And people call me weird, but one thing that I love about the raw milk is it comes with about 2 inches of cream, full cream at the top, and you have to shake it up, otherwise you put You end up putting a lot of cream in your tea, which can taste a bit funny. But it's whole fat for me, and that's what I've always sort of given to my daughter as well.
All right, we'll talk more about that a bit later on the programme today.
I'll
Josh, it's great to see you. Thanks. Josh Rylatt from Transformation Fit joining us here on BBC Radio Leicester. We'll be talking to Sandy Toksvig's sister in a minute or two for reasons which have become apparent.